internet times. We have, for example, our oral archive started in the 2000. In Argentina in 2000, internet was not a common tool. I don't know in Europe, but in America, Latin America. And so we always think that the consent that people gave, it was not the same that the consent and nowadays the people the people know that maybe he could appear in the internet, or for example we use the testimonies are used a lot for films or for documentary, but we request a specific authorization because it's not the same to give a testimony for a consult and to see your testimony in a big screen. But at the same case that you mentioned, we have some oral testimony that the person gave the consent, but we think that it's so intimate to put on that we close.
Yes. Informed consent is sometimes not really possible for the person who does that, right? Or you can do it like the Prison Memory Archive in Ireland, where you consent to, they have recordings of prisoners and wardens on the prison site, and at any point in time you're allowed to withdraw your consent. So even if you think today I want to do it, 5 years later you have a family, you can come
without discussion, withdrawal at any, from whatever. We had the cases and we have withdrawn, no problem. I mean, it's that we are sad because of that situation became like that, but
the victim or the person is in control of their own data at any given time. So I would suggest the last question. Just
yes, I have like related question. Maybe one to Trudy and one to Vesnom. Relates to also what the international community and states can do. No, and you mentioned the statement of concerns. What happens after such a statement of concern? What is the action that can be taken by governments, and in how far, is there a platform? Is it the UN? Is it the regional organizations where you can move this forward politically also? And that relates to the, I mean, when we look at the Western Balkans, the issue of archives is a big topic, no? But it's relatively underrepresented in EU accession discussions, rule of law discussions. Every time when I engage with a political decision maker, it's not a topic, but when I listen to you, it's a key topic for transitional justice dealing with the past process. But states often have the question, so what can we do? What should we do in order to promote this? No? And so that's why the statement of concerns, what happens with them, and also what you think states in the Balkans today could do, meaning European member states, obviously also states in the region. It's just that somehow it needs, because Argentina is a case where the state suddenly had the political will to do something. Mm-hmm. Whereas when we look in Sudan, when we look at cases, so I'm just thinking, what can states, what should they do?
Politicians act when the population demands it, and that requires a high level of social and civic engagement. And most of these conflict societies are completely ruined. All the social fabric is gone. So where's the incentive for a politician to do something in that direction?
I mean, when we talk about Croatia, we talk about the European Union member state. So it's like, it's not that it's a Sudan, a war-torn society.
That brings a lot of money, but I know, but still,
But just like the question was very topical, and I agree, but as a Slovenian we're doing a lot on the digitize the archive in Belgrade, because I think this is important for all 5 accession states. And this was one of the things, and it's not true that even through Croatian negotiations for membership to the EU, it was one of the things that accession agreement is part of Croatia accession, and it is for the other members as well. So Slovenia is working hard with collaboration with other succession members for the digitalization of the archive, so that the succession states could have been access to the Yugoslav archive. So it's not true that nothing is done. Of course, always can be more done, and we would be super happy if this would be faster and if we will be in different stages we are. But we are trying, and we are also trying through the EU funds to support Serbia to do the faster digitalization of the archive.
Do you want to give a quick answer?
Well, just to say that many small steps might bring some bigger step. And I think between Slovenia and Croatia, in sense of remembrance, one important action is linked with fascist concentration camp and memorial graveyard on Rab, Kampor. So there are examples of good cooperation. But it's also about building constituencies, socially speaking and institutionally speaking, for dealing with the past and transitional justice, so that there are more clear demands regarding this or that aspect of remembrance or education. Although, you know, in Croatia, years ago, we had 40,000 people in a street demanding reform of education, and reform of education we still have not seen. So it's that, you know, this reform of education would include also a part related to history education, but it's still not happening. So it's that the resistance of ministries and government and their perception that, you know, that kind of education reform would influence political culture in a way which is not welcome, in direction which would not be so conservative, is still strong enough so that we are not really seeing it yet. So it's, well, we do steps, you know, but this building constituencies for dealing with the past, it takes a very long time. Because as societies, most of societies, not just in Croatia, you know, it's that people are not used to honest dealing with the violence. It's simply more exception than a normal way of doing things. We wish to see it. You know, many citizens wish to see it. But there is also this fear, you know, if too many facts will be there, and our interpretations will be based then on them, it really goes slowly. It somehow goes, you know, I'm not losing hope, and it's very important to work with young, that's especially inspiring, but also with older generations. Because, as I said, if you work only with young, you don't come very far. You really have to look at professionals and work with them also.
Thank you very much. We've had an hour and a half of intense discussion, much information, very intense, very many fields that are connected through our common desire to not forget what happened so we can improve our daily lives. And I like the idea of building constituencies of dealing with the past, right? So that's something to learn from Argentina. And every step counts, as small as it is. It eventually is that one little corner, makes it over the hill, and then it'll work. So thank you for your interest, and to all of us, a good night. Say bye.